All right. All right. All right. This is Sports for Real on one of the greatest sports days of the year on the calendar, the NFL draft. A lot of guys' dreams will be coming true tonight, and a lot of question marks about who's going to go where. Of course, all the experts have been talking for weeks, or they had something to talk about as if they knew exactly what was going on. But after all the talk and the speculation, you get a pretty good idea about who's going to go where. And the question is, where will Shedeur Sanders land? Looks like Cam Ward is going to be taken with the first pick, followed immediately by Travis Hunter going to Cleveland. And that leaves Tennessee. Not Tennessee, but the Giants with the third pick. What would they do? A lot of people think it's going to be Shedeur. A lot of people think that the Giants are going to pass on Shedeur and possibly pushing him all the way down to the ninth pick with the Saints. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. But the question is, will he be the next quarterback taken after Cam Ward? And Jackson Dart has been silently moving up the board, and it might just be a surprise pick tonight if Dart is able to get drafted before Sanders. But what difference does it make? Wherever you go, all the talk goes out the window. Now it's time to go to work. And then we determine at that point how you play, who got the better end of the draft. So till then, it's just been something to talk about. Now all that talk is over. Now we can get this draft done and get to work and get ready for the upcoming football season. Speaking of football, I don't like to talk a whole lot about it, but as you notice, a lot of these NFL athletes or former athletes always find themselves in trouble legally, and it has to do with some kind of girl. And now Shannon Sharp, unfortunately, is in the same situation. Seeing him issue an apology about the embarrassment it's caused his family, and being that this guy's been on a meteoric rise the last year or so, it's the last thing I expected him to get involved in. But then again, the more you start to rise, the more you become a target, and he's clearly on the rise, and people are going to be shooting at him. So they came right for him this time. And what disappointed me is, he's basically, I don't think he's dumb enough to get in that situation, but at the same time, he's opened the door by getting involved with these kind of chicks. And now she wants $50 million. She's got this attorney who goes after people with money just for the sake of trying to get whatever they can get. Well, Sharp called it a shakedown, but he did offer to settle for $10 million. Well, I'm telling you like this, if you're shaking me down, I'm not offering anything. If I did it, prove it. It's almost getting to the point now with the proliferation of electronic and recording devices. With every person you run across, every interaction you have, it almost has to come to the fact that you need to record the situation. And I think the day for that is coming rapidly. But I hope Sharp the best, and I hope he can get out of this situation. But at the same time, if he's guilty of something, and just like anybody else, you got to suffer the consequences. But that's all I want to say about that. I've been watching the NBA playoffs last night. Pretty interesting action. I thought that Golden State was going to knock off Houston last night, but Golden State got off to a terrible start. Not so far as the way they were playing. It's just that Jimmy Butler, he went up for a rebound right at the same time this guy was out of control. Hits him on the hip. He gets airborne, kind of like a football player, and lands flat on his back. Leaves the game, comes to find out that he has a pelvic contusion, and he never returned to the game. And that changed the whole dynamic of what Golden State was trying to do. Curry, who's normally a three-point bomber, tried to turn into an assist man last night. And almost worked for the gambling public anyway. I saw a parlay out there for if Steph Curry could have got a double-double, then it was a pretty high payout for it, along with two other guys who were slated to get a double double. The other two got theirs, and all they needed was one assist, and somebody would have made a whole lot of money last night. But and it wasn't meant to be. But the bigger issue for Golden State is the fact that Jimmy Butler is going to be out, and I don't know how long he's going to be out. But speaking in terms of football, again, you can't talk about basketball without infusing football into it some kind of way. He got hurt in a football style fashion, and being that they have to win now, shoot it up, man. Let's go play, man. Get your pain shot and come on out and play, and we'll work on it from there. All right. So I felt that if Golden State would have won that game, then they were going to sweep Houston out. Jalen Green finally showed up in the playoffs. He'd been scoring 2 points here and 7 points there. He was the top scorer, scoring a whole bunch of points, and all of a sudden he just went dead. And the playoff time is not the time to go dead if you're a top scorer. And that's what happened to Green. But last night he showed up. Now, does the fact that Jimmy Butler wasn't there and the Golden State team had a completely different look, I don't know if that played much into that. But the fact is he did snap out of his shell, and he scored over 20 points last night. He's going to need to continue to do that if Houston expects to get by Golden State. I don't think they will, but if he scores his points like he normally does, then they have a great chance. All right. Hoodoo's Vlog says hi. Hello. And bitches wonder why they end up in the bottom of a pre-drug hole out in the middle of nowhere. I had to catch what you were saying there, Rakasan. I understand exactly what you're saying, but if he did something like that, it's just going to create more problems. As soon as she disappears, who's the first person they're going to come looking for? They're going to come looking for Sharp. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, but I understand what you're saying. People that are always trying to railroad people and then try to blow it off like it's meaningless. Well, you could possibly ruin this man's career, and I see how people could warrant such actions. But I get exactly what you're saying there, Rakasan. But I hope it works out for him. Like I said, if I'm innocent, I'm not trying to settle on anything. What they do, they make these settlements to try to make the case go away. But as you can see with old Puffy, as soon as you settle, and here come everybody else. You paid that chick, what, $30 million? Then all of a sudden, everybody and their mama is suing this man, talking about they got done wrong. Of course, it was a money grab, and a lot of it didn't even make sense. But once you open the door to a settlement, then here they come. So what's going to happen next with Sharp? Somebody else going to come and try to make the same accusations to try to get paid. But me, $10 million, I'm not trying to give away $10, especially if I'm not wrong. And they're just going to have to prove it. And I was disappointed to find that he actually settled or tried to settle the situation. And they probably will settle it, but I would never even made that attempt. But that's on him. I asked the question, will Shedeur Sanders go within the first 4 rounds? And right now, we're at a 4-4, 50-50 split here. I think that the Giants are really interested in Sanders. But the question is, do they like him more than they like Jackson Dart? I think Jackson Dart is going to be one of the first 3 quarterbacks taken. They haven't been talking a whole lot about him, but ever since the Senior Bowl, he's been moving up a lot of people's drafts board. And at the same time he's been moving, people have been questioning whether they think Shedeur could actually be a good NFL quarterback. Well, I don't see why he couldn't be a good NFL quarterback. You don't have to have the strongest arm. You just have to be a good leader. But I don't know if he's spent a whole lot of time in severe cold like you have up and surrounded by the spotlight pretty much all his life, so he should be used to that. That won't be a problem. The question is, can he avoid being sacked as much as he did in college? If they tracked him down in the college, what do you think they're going to do to him in the pros? So he's going to have to go to a team that can protect him at least long enough for him to get his reads and make a play. Now, as far as adjusting to the game and understanding, I don't think he's going to have a problem with that. It's just, to me, he took too many sacks while he was in college. And I'm wondering if he can avoid that bug in the pros. If he can, I think he should be pretty successful. But what do the Giants think? They keep looking at him. They keep sniffing on him. I think it's a good chance that he will go to the Giants. But if they don't pick Sanders, I don't think they're going to take um, an offensive player. They might be looking at that Carter guy from Michigan. And I think Sanders, though, he won't get out of the first round tonight. I mean, he won't be there at the end of the first round, is what I'm saying. Consensus has it that the Saints are probably going to take him with that ninth pick. And I'm anticipating him to either go to the Giants or the Saints. But whatever happens, it's going to be interesting to see how that unfolds. But again, it doesn't matter to me where you get drafted. That determines how much your contract is going to be in the beginning. But can you perform on the field after all this speculation and, wish list for a lot of people about what you could do? I don't care anything about that, which is why I don't usually watch the draft. I'll track it, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll talk about who went where. But as far as sitting there watching it and throwing draft parties, I don't want to do any of that. It doesn't mean anything to me like that. I just want to see these guys play on the field. JC, how you doing, man? ESPN says Sanders will go between 10 and 20. No. Well, the Giants keep sniffing on him. Why do you think the Giants aren't interested? So he is dropping in the draft, but that's not necessarily a bad thing either. I saw Aaron Rodgers sitting in that green room before he got picked up with like the 24th pick by Green Bay, and look at the career he had. He didn't do bad at all. So it's not a death sentence that you don't get picked like most people think you should get picked. Or better yet, the hype machine that put you to the point where you should get picked. It might be to his advantage to slip down into the draft because now you don't have those extreme high expectations that you would have if you were picked in the first couple of picks. Like I said, the rumor has it the Saints like him, the Raiders like him, and if Pittsburgh can't come up with another quarterback, and if he's still there, they might pick him up. So I think it's a good chance that Sanders does go in the first round, but I'm kind of thinking that Jackson Dart is going to be the second quarterback taken, even though the Giants say what they're not going to do. But, you saw what the Giants, the way they think and the way they process stuff. You gave Daniel Jones all that money, and then you cut him, and then you didn't want to pay Barkley. You let him go to Philadelphia. Look what happened there. So these guys don't make the greatest of decisions, and if they don't get this right, they're going to be in the same position next year. Although it'll be a different general manager and head coach, but still the organization is going to be in the same spot if they don't make the right decision. But speaking of that, all you're really doing is gambling anyway. You can take a guy like a Travis Hunter. You're getting two players in one. That means he's going to pan out in the NFL. So you hope this guy is going to work out, just like a guy buying a lottery ticket. You hope this ticket pays off. You can end up with a Greg Oden, some guy that you think is going to do something, and you find out that he got severe medical problems. You just never know until the guy get out there and play. This is why, again, I don't get too wrapped up into the over speculation about who's going to go where. But either way, I think that Sanders is going to get picked up by somebody, and he's going to have an opportunity to show people that they were wrong. JC says if Sanders drops, I think Steelers will try to move up to get him. No, I don't think they'll try to move up. I mean, if he's dropping, why spend extra money to try to get somebody that's falling? He's going to fall right into your lap. And but speaking of that, Pittsburgh, they don't make the best decisions either when it comes to a quarterback. Here they are letting Aaron Rodgers hold him in limbo, and the quarterbacks they could have got to help them are slipped by the wayside. Now, one thing that Pittsburgh could do, they're talking about the possibility of making a trade for Kirk Cousins down in Atlanta. Atlanta signed him to that big deal, and then they drafted Penix last year. Penix has emerged as a starter, and that leaves possibility that you could deal a guy like Cousins. And I can see Pittsburgh doing well with a guy like Cousins. Certainly an upgrade from what they've been the last couple of years. And it would be interesting to see what Kirk Cousins could do in that division. But Pittsburgh, they don't make sound decisions when it comes to quarterback. So for them to move up to get a Sanders wouldn't surprise me at all. All right. So again, 50-50 on the vote about where Sanders will go. I think he'll go in the first 9 picks. If he doesn't go to the Giants with the 3rd pick, the Saints are looking to pick him up at the 9th pick. But these guys are funny also. You never know what they're going to do until they actually do it. So this is what makes it interesting to watch. But I can't do watch parties. I don't even do Super Bowl parties. People go to these Super Bowl parties and all they do is talk about everything except the game. The game becomes an afterthought. And I'm not interested into the sideline stuff. I want to see the game. I want to hear what's going on. I want to follow it from a coaching perspective, not about what you're going to do at the club this weekend. I could care less. And then they jump up and down when the game gets exciting, like they've been involved the whole time. And that just turns my stomach. So I'd rather go somewhere and watch the game by myself and get away from the crowds. But call me strange. That's just the way I am. But just to recap, the draft is tonight. And the question is, where will Shedeur fall in the draft? Some people think, like JC just said, he's going to drop down after the 10th pick. I don't see that. I think he'll get picked up before the 10th pick. He's probably going to end up with the Saints if the Giants don't get him with that 3rd selection. But if he does slip all the way down to the later rounds, in Pittsburgh, they might just be the team to snap him up. But whatever the case, the kid's going to get a chance to play, and we'll see how he goes. Also, I'm keep hearing that Jalen Milroe keeps moving up the draft board. I still don't know why, but once quarterback from the Eagles, once he won the Super Bowl, the running quarterback can now win the Super Bowl. That opened the door for a lot of running quarterbacks. I just wish I'd have come along 25, 30 years later, because the style that they play now is the style I could have played. I did play back then. It's just that it wasn't favorable. So I came along too early, but I have no regrets. You come along when you come along, and it is what it is, and you deal with it. And I hope it works out for these guys. But anyway, if this is some breaking news pop up, I'll pop back in with you guys, and we'll talk about that. But meanwhile, if you're going to have a draft party, I hope you have a good one. And if there's no breaking news, I will catch you guys in the morning, and we'll talk about what took place in the first round. JC says, scouts say Milroe looked good in the combine. Well, I'm looking at the way Milroe look on tape, and I wonder about some of the throws he makes when it's time to win the game. Can he run? Yeah, he's a great runner. He's got good speed, and he throws some good passes. But it's the ones when he don't throw a good pass is what kills you. And that's what got me sour against Milroe. When the game's on the line, I need a quarterback that can stand in there and throw it, not looking to run. And, because it's not going to be there when you actually need it. You're going to have to stand in there and throw it at some point. It's the same points I make about Lamar Jackson. He finally stood in there and made some passes in the playoff game when it counted. Just so happened the guy that dropped the pass. Same thing happened to him a couple of years ago when he was playing against Tennessee that night that Henry killed him. All through the season, the receivers bailed him out. But in the playoff game, he was actually on, and they were dropping passes. And they did the same thing to him this time. But I'm still on Jackson's case. I just need him to see him be consistent now that he's shown me that he can actually throw the ball. So I'm going to be watching to see what he's doing. Philip Henry, how you doing, man? I'm on the way out. Get ready to hit by a rush here. So like I say, I catch you guys later on if there's some breaking news. I like to come on before the draft starts, but whatever takes place tonight, we'll sit down and talk about it in the morning, and also talk about a little basketball. As you know, the NBA playoffs are still going on, but I'll leave you with this. Basketball on any level is just something to do until football comes back around. So you chew on that. In the meantime, wherever you are in the world, have a great day. Appreciate you chiming in with me. And like and subscribe, and we'll catch you on the other side. Until then, I got to go to work. So I'm out. Oh, got an odd vote here. Saying Shedeur would not go in the first 4 picks. But we'll see. All right, have a great day.